The grand hall of the Zylocian Empire was a breathtaking sight. Crystalline arches soared overhead, catching the light of twin suns, and the air hummed with a low, powerful energy. I stood in a line of human delegates, my heart thudding a nervous rhythm against my ribs. We were here to forge a peace treaty, the first of its kind between our worlds. At the far end of the hall, on a throne carved from a single obsidian shard, sat Queen Zarthola. She was magnificent and terrifying, her silver skin shimmering, her 4 eyes scanning the room with an unnerving intensity. Beside her stood Princess Lyra, her heir vet. Even from a distance, I could see she was a miniature version of her mother, composed and regal. The ceremony was incredibly tense. Every word, every gesture, was weighed with the fate of 2 species. Our lead diplomat was presenting our formal proposal, his voice echoing slightly in the vast space. I was just a junior xenolinguist, tasked with observing and taking notes. My role was to be invisible, to blend into the background. I kept my eyes down, focusing on my datapad, trying to look as non-threatening as a human possibly could, in a room full of 7-foot-tall, 4-armed aliens. The silence was absolute, broken only by the diplomat's carefully chosen words. I remember thinking how fragile this peace felt, like a thin sheet of glass that could shatter at any moment. Suddenly, a small gasp rippled through the hall. I looked up, confused. Princess Lyra, who had been standing perfectly still beside her mother's throne, had taken a step forward. Her large, iridescent eyes, the color of a nebula, were fixed directly on me. A murmur went through the Zylocian court. Queen Zarthola's expression hardened, her gaze narrowing. I froze, my blood turning to ice. What had I done? Did I make some unintentional offensive gesture? Had I blinked wrong? Breathed too loudly? The Queen made a subtle hand motion, and the royal guards tensed, their hands moving towards their energy pikes. Then, the unthinkable happened. Before anyone could react, Princess Lyra broke from her mother's side. She wasn't walking. She was running. A small silver blur against the dark polished floor, heading straight for the human delegation. Straight for me, the entire palace froze. Time seemed to stretch and slow down. The guards were statues. Our diplomat's mouth hung open mid-sentence, and every single Zylocian in that hall held their breath. I could feel hundreds of eyes on me, a physical weight of sheer shock and disbelief. My own mind went completely blank. A princess, the heir to the entire empire, was running towards a low-ranking human, nobody. She didn't slow down. She crashed right into me, her small arms wrapping around my waist in a tight hug. I stumbled back a step, utterly bewildered. She buried her face in my uniform, and I could feel a slight tremor run through her body. A tiny, muffled voice, speaking flawless English, drifted up to my ears. "You came back," she whispered. "I knew you would." I looked down at the top of her silver head, my brain struggling to make any sense of the situation. Came back. I'd never been to this planet before in my life. The silence in the hall was deafening. Then, I felt something in her hand press into mine. It was a small, worn object. I glanced down. It was a toy spaceship, a cheap plastic model from Earth. And the forgotten toy from my past. Realizing this peace treaty had just become far more personal than anyone could have ever imagined.